drink of water, and try to explain a little bit about my detecting mission, which may not be the same as other people's. I had actually planned to start this hobby with a friend who passed away before we could accomplish that together. But the reasoning behind it was that neither one of us like to walk just for the sake of walking, and both of us suffered from several of the same illnesses, and doctors wanted us to get more exercise. So the original plan was that we were going to do this, and also some magnet fishing, which sounded really good to him. I don't try to break any world records out here. Some of you know I have mentioned I have multiple disabilities, and several people have asked what they are. I don't mind sharing those with you. Some of them are very pleasant to discuss, but in 2010, I was diagnosed with severe gastrointestinal issues, ulcerative colitis, which had been hidden by the fact that I was a 40-year smoker, and nicotine masks the symptoms of ulcerative colitis. So about a year or so after I quit smoking, all of the digestive issues that doctors for years had told me were GERD or acid reflux reared their ugly heads, and I landed in the hospital, where it was discovered that I had come very near to my intestine rupturing, and there was definitely signs that cancer was about to set in. So in 2010, I spent most of the year from July till Christmas Eve in the hospital. I would get little 2 to 3 day or 7 day where I would be out and the nurse would come, and this was between surgeries, and also because that was the only way that Medicaid would pay for it. After 30 days, they would kick me out, and I'd have to go home for a few days, and then I'd go right back in through the ER, and we'd work on it some more. One of the bad things about that is, even though I had the surgeries, I was left with no large intestine, which means that, among other things, my body does not absorb the proper nutrients that I need, particularly vitamin B12, and it also has a problem absorbing liquids, which means that I can get dehydrated very easily, which is why I'm sitting down drinking some water right now. Now, that in itself wouldn't be enough to keep me from doing metal detecting, but I also have a rare form of psoriasis that gets on your hands and your feet, the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. It is very nasty. You get these nasty blister things on the bottoms of your feet. They just don't heal up, and makes it very difficult to walk. To go along with that, I also developed psoriatic arthritis, which settled into most of my joints, which I didn't really need because I already had osteoarthritis, and recently I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So now I have 3 forms of arthritis, and ironically, the worst thing you can do with those is to not move. So I am urging people with disabilities, particularly arthritic sorts of disabilities, to do hobbies in which they need to move and push themselves to do it. I also have severe back problems, for which I go to physical therapy twice a week and have a series of exercises I do at home. Now, there, you know about half of my disabilities. It's a long list, folks. Then we're going to go with the emotional side of things. I was diagnosed many, many years ago with bipolar disorder. I suffer from anxiety disorder, panic disorders, clinical depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's a big long list of things that if you weren't crazy would make you think you were. and if you got them, you're like, okay, how do I focus? So one of the things I learned, I can't sit at home and dwell. If I do, I will drive myself out of my own little mind. So I use detecting as a way to clear my mind, find something to focus on. I forget sometimes I'm not supposed to move. You know, I'll see something down in that little hole. I'm like, oh boy, I got to get there, and you know, I'm moving. I'm doing what I need to do. So that being said, that's kind of my focus. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm not trying to get famous. I'm just trying to fill some voids and do something that I find interesting. I worked for many years in coastal management for a Florida county, doing permitting and so forth for beach restoration projects. I was raised in Florida. I love the whole beach detecting idea. I don't get to do it much anymore because I live in South Georgia. But my train of thought just derailed. Anyway, I'm also a semi-retired professional genealogist, which means that I investigate people's family trees and sometimes let the skeletons out of the closet. With genealogy comes a great interest in history and relics and that sort of thing, which is another reason that metal detecting is a wonderful outlet for me. I encourage people with disabilities to not sit at home and say, I can't do this. I can't do it every day. I have days I get up and I'm ready to go. I have other days I can't get off the sofa. But find someone to go with you. Right now, I don't have anyone to go with me, but if you got grandkids, take your grandkids along. You can swing the detector, and when you find the spot, let the grandkids dig it up. You can teach them how to dig and fill in the holes, and you can share the findings with them. The funniest thing that I have ever seen was down in Florida. I stopped to do a little detecting in Pasco County, and I met a gentleman in a wheelchair who had his service dog with him and his metal detector, and he was detecting the edges of the sidewalks. And we started talking, and I asked, because I had my detector too, so we started talking, and I asked him, once you find it, how are you going to dig it? And he said, well, he says, watch. And he got we made a little target there. We found a little target, and next thing you know, Mr. Service Dog's digging the hole. And he'd tell him, stop, and he'd stop. He had his pinpointer on a stick, which I thought, that's brilliant. Had his pinpointer on a stick, waving it over the hole, and he'd find the location. And then if he could not reach it, he had a little scoop on a stick in his pouch, and he got that out and he scooped it up, and it was a penny. And then of course he had to use the scoop to fill the hole back in, because he hadn't quite got there yet with the dog. Hadn't trained a dog to use a pinpointer, and hadn't trained a dog to fill the hole, but the dog would dig. So this guy was making it do, and I thought, that is phenomenal, and I wish I had had a camera with me at the time. But I didn't, so whoever that guy is that was down in Pasco, you got the right idea, buddy. Okay, I'm going to quit talking now, except to say I get out here because I can. If I don't, I will die. It might not be tomorrow, but with no focus and no zest for living, people can't survive. So take your zest for living, get up off of that couch. Even if you just get a $50 cheap little detector, get out there and try it. You might find something really wonderful that you don't dig up from the ground. I'll see you next time.